Hey developers, Bilal from Zenfinity.net. In this video we're going to create a music player that will play tracks randomly, one after the other, and it will loop forever. Now before I start this video I want to say that the assets we use in the video are available for purchase. The music that we use is by Headlane and is available in a link below from Audio Jungle, and the sound effects that we use in the video are from Invenzia's Universal Sound Effects Pack, which is also available from the Unity Asset Store in the link below. With all that said, let's get started and create our music player. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a new Unity project. I'll call this Music Player Project. And it doesn't matter if it's 3D or 2D at this time. Okay, and here we are with the opened project, and the first thing I want to do is go ahead and go into our hierarchy view over here. And I want to create an empty object that I'm going to name Music Player. Okay, now on this I want to add an audio source component, and that's all we need to do. But first we want to make sure we disable play on awake here because we don't want it to just play whenever we start. We want to specify when the music is going to start. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag in some music files to use. And now that those are done importing, I'll also grab in some audio for testing, which are shorter than the music tracks, simply because we want to make sure our music player is working. Now that that's all done, we can go ahead and save our scene. I'm going to name it main.unity. I just hit Ctrl S to pull up the saving dialog, and I'll just hit save as it defaults to the assets folder. Okay, now I can go in and create our first script here, which is actually going to be our only script for the video. It's going to be called Music Player. I'll go ahead and open this up in Visual Studio. Okay, and here we are. And so the first thing I'm going to do is create all of our functions and attributes, and then we can fill them in later. So I don't need an update function here, but I will be needing this start function. Now, as a quick disclaimer, if you don't know what a region is, it's just a Visual Studio mark that lets you Visual Studio know that there is a selection of members in a class hanging out in between this region. And so with that feature, I can then fold it like this. Okay, so I'll make another region called attributes here. And region. And in here, we're going to have quite a few attributes actually. So our first one is going to be a list of audio clips, which is a Unity class that comes included. So we'll write public audio clip, public list, and we want these less than and greater than symbols that will specify that this is a list of type audio clip. And then I'll call it music clips is equal to new list of audio clip. And that just makes sure that we initialize it at the start so we don't have to do that later. And now I'll create a static audio source. Like static audio source music. And we can actually just turn this into a private music source, because it's not too important right now what we do with it other than assign it through the start function. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is create an audio clip that specifies the current track, and then we'll have a float for length, which will be the length of a track, and we'll have a coroutine music loop, and finally an audio source. Oh, actually, we don't need a second audio source. We already put that in. Okay, so that should be it for the attributes for now. And we will add a music cue later, which is a class that we're just about to create here. So let's hop down under our music player class. So make sure it's after this bracket here. And we want to create a music cue class. So public class music cue. And in here, we're going to have an attribute for the clips, and we're going to have some functions to run this music. So I'll have another list audio clips, and we'll have a public IEnumerator loop music, which, if you don't know what an IEnumerator is, this is a function that can be used as a coroutine, which will just make it easier for us to run this music loop without freezing our game, in the easiest sense of explaining it here. So this will have parameters for a mono behavior, which is going to be the mono behavior that will run the coroutine for each track. So then we'll have a float delay, which is going to be the delay between the tracks that we want to play, in case we want there to be some delay between the music. And we'll have a system.action, which is basically a function that we can pass around that will accept one parameter here of an audio clip, and then we'll call it play function. Now this is a little weird to you. Basically what's going to happen is we'll be able to pass a function that will take an audio clip parameter here and then use it to call something on an audio clip. So I'll show you that in just a minute, but right now I'll just leave this commented out for now, actually. So the next thing we want to make is a run enumerator. So public enumerator run list audio clip tracks, float delay, and we want this action again. So I'm going to go up here and copy and paste our action and put it right here. And I'll see if I can return null here to go ahead and silence these errors temporarily. And the last thing we'll have is a public list audio clip randomized list function. List, which will take a list of audio clip and return a randomized version of it. Okay, so now let's go back up to our music player class here, and under our mono behavior API, which is where our start function is, I'm going to create 3 more functions for running and stopping our music. So let's take a public void play music clip, audio clip, music, and let's have another public void stop music, and then we'll have finally a start music. Start music. Okay, so now that we have all that, let's go ahead and start implementing some of these functions here. So let's start with our start function, and I want to store our music cue here. Oh, actually, we need to create the attribute. So let's make a private music cue up here, and we'll call this just music cue. Okay, and so then we'll create a new music cue out of our list of music clips here. So we'll make a new music cue, and we'll pass it our music clips that we'll later assign in the Unity editor. Now it looks like I forgot to add a constructor down here in our music cue, so go ahead and scroll back down to our music cue, and let's create a constructor here, public music cue, that will accept a list of audio clips. And all that's going to do is set clips to be clips, and make sure you put a this in front of the first clip so we specify that it's this one. And I'll write a private here at the beginning just to be clear. Okay, so now we can scroll back up to our start function, and under this constructor we just called, we can store our music source. So this is going to be grabbing that component that we set earlier in Unity, audio source. And now we can, oh, and it looks like I just called it music. So I'll actually go ahead and copy and paste this here, just to be more clear and say that is a music source. Okay, so now we'll call start music. And we can move down to our play music clip function here. And basically what this is going to do is stop the music from playing, and then it'll set the new music, and then it'll play. So let's use our standard audio source API here. So we'll write music source dot stop. Simple as that. And then we'll do music source dot play. And in between here, we want to set the music source dot clip to be this music that we pass in through the arguments here. Okay. Now, let's create our stop music function, which we won't necessarily be using right now, but in the future, if you want to stop your music, I'll make sure that this is left in here just in case. So first we'll do a check on the music loop coroutine to check if it is actually set. And if it is set, then we want to call stop coroutine on that music loop so that we basically stop playing music. And then we can start it again later whenever we want. So let's do that by writing our start music function, where we write music loop is equal to start coroutine. And we're going to use our music cues loop music function here. So we'll write music cue dot loop music. We're going to pass this mono behavior, so that this mono behavior is the one that stores the coroutine, or I guess begins running the coroutine here. So then we'll give a 0 delay, because I don't really need to delay right now. If you want to try delaying, then go ahead. Okay, and then here's the most tricky part, where we're going to pass this function in. Basically, all we have to do is write the function's name. We don't want to call the function, so make sure you don't put parentheses here, because we're not trying to get the return value of the function. We're just trying to pass a reference to the function here so that we can call stuff with it later. Okay, so now that that's all done, we don't have to worry about our music player mono behavior anymore at all. We just need to focus on our music cue here. Okay, so let's go down to our music cue, and I'll first write our loop music function. So let's remove this returning null here, and we'll write a while loop that will run forever here, but it will wait for the run coroutine. So we'll write yield return player.start coroutine run randomized list clips, and we'll give it the delay again, and we'll pass over this play function again. Okay. And what this is going to do is just run each of these clips out of our randomized list function. Okay, so now let's go ahead and in our run function write for each. And this is a loop that's going to go through every single clip inside of tracks, and then play each and every one. So let's do our for each loop here, which will have audio clip types in our tracks list. And every single time, or for every single clip, we're going to play the function, or we're going to run our play function on that clip. So we pass the clip to that play function, which in our case will be running the music. So let's go ahead and here write our yield so that we don't have too short of a delay here. We'll yield return wait for seconds, and this is what's going to make it play after our current track is done playing. So we'll write clip.length here, and we'll add on the delay. So now what's going to happen is, I should write new wait for seconds because this is a constructor here. So what this is going to do is run a clip here. So we'll play function here. We'll call this play function on the clip, and then afterward we will wait for the length of the clip plus whatever delay we set, which is 0. So we're really only going to be waiting for this. And then we'll do all this over again. And this is going to keep happening until we stop the coroutine, basically. Oh, and make sure you delete this return null at the bottom here. Okay, now the very last thing, which is a little bit tricky, is our randomized list function, which is going to make sure that we don't just keep playing the same music in the same order. So the first thing I have to do is make a copy of our list. So I'll write list audio clip copy equals new list audio clip, and we're going to pass that list into this new audio clip constructor, which will automatically make us a copy here. Okay, so now that we have a copy, we want to write a while loop here, which is going to keep going through our list and changing the value of the last index that we have not yet changed. So basically we're going to go from the count all the way to 0, grabbing one random function out of this copy that we just made. So if that's a little confusing right now, you don't have to worry about it too much. It'll make sense in a little bit. So I'll write while n is greater than 1, and I forgot to actually store our n here as the copy.count. Okay. In here we want to first subtract from our n, because our n is basically a cursor pointing to the largest unedited value here in our copy, which is what and our copy is basically the previous order of what our music list was, and what we're doing now is randomizing that list. So now we'll do int k equals random.range between 0 and n plus 1, since this is exclusive, so we want to include our n index here. Okay, and then we'll write the audio clips value, this value is a temporary variable, which is going to store a copy of the clip, which is at this k index, which is anywhere between 0 and n. N minus 1, technically, considering we are subtracting n up here. Okay, so now let's go down here and swap the value with our n, because our n is the last index in our list. Okay, so we'll write copy k equals copy n, and then we'll write copy n is equal to value. So what this will do is grab a random value between n and 0, and then it will, in that same index of that value, it will change that to be the n, and then n will become this new chosen value. So starting from the end to the beginning, we'll pick a new random value from the clips that we have not yet chosen and set it as that largest index. Okay, if that's still a little weird, it will make sense, I guess, if you look at it a little bit more, but we'll see how it works in the editor in just a second. So let's just return our copy here. That's all we had to do. So I'm going to go back into the editor now. So back in Unity, I'll click on this music player, and I'll add our music player component, and I'll drag these 3 test scripts in just a second. You want to make sure your inspector is locked here by clicking this lock, selecting the music player, and then clicking the lock, and then dragging some test clips into our music clips here. So I'll drag them, and then they will be filled here. And so we should be able to start hearing these play randomly and never one after each other. So let's give it a listen. They are randomly playing at different times, and so now that's all we had to do for the audio player. So basically we can just go ahead and drag the music in now. So I'll set the size to 0 and hit enter, and I'll drag all the music here onto the music clips array, and I'll hit play again. And you should be able to hear the music just fine. So I'll drag the volume down a little bit. Okay, so that is going to be it for this tutorial, and I hope it helped you out, and if it did, make sure you leave a like. So hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this where I explain how to do some common concept in Unity, and also make sure that if you want to make your first game that you click over on this card in the top right. It's going to be a book about all the tools that you need to make your first game. And with all that said, I'll see you in the next one.